cold today. I think it was minus 33 today, this morning with the wind chill. But I'm going to knock on wood. This is kind of, I don't know. Is this real wood? Do we know, Ben? It's not. He's shaking. It's some kind of laminate, but it looks like wood, so I'm going to knock on it. Because my little car, she starts all the time. She does. She never lets me down. I hit my little starter. God bless, I have a starter. Oh, so lovely. Anyways, I hit it. There she goes. I say a little prayer. She comes alive. Other thing, though, that I'm not super happy about, do you ever get these? Do you ever get the little freaking slits in your fingers? You know, it's just like a tiny, like, little paper cut, and it's the smallest thing ever. But it literally destroys my life. It is so painful, and you forget about them, and then you go to wash your hands. Anyway, I heard on CBC the other day that soaking it in hot water and vinegar really helps for like little hangnails and stuff like that, so I'm going to try it. Because it really hurts. Because it's so dry and cold. Anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about who's here. Okay, guys, I'm really excited because we have Ms. Jocelyn Bell here today and talk about community. I mean, to North Bay with love, you know, we love to highlight people in the community. I see, you know, heroes in the community. And she is definitely one of them. So she's been a teacher for coming up to 30 years now, as you'll hear. She taught at Widdifield for most of her career, and now she's kind of with the school board. She was at West Ferris too. She's been a huge player and a huge part of Dreamcoat Fantasy Theatre, as well as Toros, which is theatre outreach on stage. We have a great discussion. And so that's all coming up. Before we get going, though, I do want to thank our show sponsor, Twigs Coffee Roasters. Head on over there. Actually, today would be a perfect day because it's so cold. Go get yourself something hot. Get a nice little chai tea. Ooh, a dirty chai. Get a little shot of espresso in there. Why not? I'm Lisa Boivin, and this is To North Bay with Love.
North Bay Echo is proud to partner with Twigs Coffee Roasters, a part of the community since 1995. Twigs offers a wide selection of quality beans, fresh roasted in-house every day. Find your favorite specialty drinks at our espresso bar, rejuvenate with freshly squeezed juice, or treat yourself to mouth-watering selections from our gourmet deli. And don't forget our irresistible fresh baked goods, including uncompromising gluten-free options. Twigs has 5 locations to serve you from North Bay to Sturgeon Falls to Sudbury. Order online for pickup at twigs.ca. And coming soon, you'll be able to order fresh roasted coffee beans direct to your doorstep from our distribution center in North Bay.
I took the shirt out of the wash, put it in the dryer for a few minutes, just to get the wrinkles out. Because I was like, oh shoot, I'm going to podcast, and the director that I'm working with yesterday said that this was a good color on me.
Oh.
So I thought I'd wear it.
It's a fabulous color. Brings out your eyes.
Well, thank you.
Yes, it does.
Shameless plug. The show I was doing was Lunenburg, February 5th to the 9th at Odyssey High School. Okay, moving on. We'll talk about that in the intro. I have Jocelyn Bell in the freaking studio today.
I'm here.
Joss, I wanted you in because, like, you know, To North Bay with Love, it's a podcast where we like to highlight people in the community and like heroes in the community and just talk about people who've been around. I don't want to say been around forever. What does that mean?
It's okay. It's okay.
You know, now that you're 75. But like since I've come to North Bay, I think I knew your name. I knew the name Jocelyn Bell before I met you for like years, just because you've been involved in so much in the community. Before we did this, I asked you to send me your resume so, you know, I could kind of get some ideas as to what we were going to talk about. And it's mind-blowing. Like it really is. Like the resume is varied incredibly, and there's so many different skills on there. But the one that I saw repeating over and over and over was dance.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about your love of dance. Like, where did that start?
Oh, okay. The journey of dance. It's a love-hate relationship. I'll tell you that.
It is. Yeah, bar classes. I started doing those on YouTube. And
it is. There's a conflict there for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, my first introduction to dance is at the Barbara Levin School of Dancing. Back in the day, in the 70s. And I was 3 years old, and Mom needed to keep me busy. So straight to dance class.
3? Oh, I love it. Okay.
Yep. And I spent more time chewing on the bars than I did learning how to plie. But it was perfect.
Yep.
It's not wrong.
It's not wrong.
No, my parents remember exactly when I stopped at the age of 8, I stopped chewing the bars. who knows? Something turned.
What do you do?
Yeah, and I had ventured into the world of ballet. That was my real love when I first started. So I kind of worked through the process of auditioning for schools. I did some summer training sessions at the Royal Winnipeg Ballet School when I was 12 and 13, so I was quite young and I'd left home. And then I had this hate on for dance in high school, which journeyed me then to theater.
Yeah.
And I found that theater was kind of filling a different void, and it took out the competitiveness of dance for me. But at the same time, the root of it all was performing, of course, but I loved to dance. I love the way my body feels when it's freely moving, and it started to then evolve into something that was more just about how you feel about movement in the space and sharing movement, and it's so organic. And something that everybody can do, regardless of right in front of left foot. It doesn't matter, right? So for me, that journey then took me to school in the States with dance and musical theater.
I found
my love of
Missouri.
In Missouri, yeah.
Why Missouri? Like, what was enticing about that course?
Well, there might be another name you recognize in the theater community, Southcott.
Yes.
Southcott is a theater community name. Yeah. And so Marty and Art Southcott used to take us down to the States for this competition every year and sharing and workshopping and that sort of thing. And I auditioned for some schools and I managed to get in and I went off to Missouri.
Like for dance or for
musical
performing?
theater to
for
start.
Musical theater, okay.
And then I transferred into dance in my third year because I had missed it so much of being that intensity of it.
Yeah.
That I transferred to the University of Missouri and trained and found the world of modern dance with a gentleman by the name of Lenny Williams, who unfortunately has since passed away. But he was an incredible mentor for me as a modern dance teacher, and I really evolved that way. Circumstances in life change, and I had a beautiful little bundle to bring back to Canada with me after school was done.
I was just going to ask you about little Andrew.
By the name of Andrew. And Andrew and I returned as a package deal.
How can I ask how old you were when you had Andrew?
I was 22.
Okay.
Yeah, and I never shy away from that.
No.
You know, I mean, often people think, ooh, you had a child in university. And I said, darn right, I had a child in university and I finished university.
Yes.
And I performed and I kept performing.
Yeah.
And it didn't hold me back. It just made me stronger.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to stop me from venturing forward.
Yeah.
Hence the reason Andrew was on my hip at every audition, every rehearsal process you would have seen here in North Bay even.
Yes.
He was always there.
So involved.
Yeah, so involved. And thankfully he loved it as well. But yeah, I moved back to Toronto, gave myself a 2-year window in Toronto of just kind of living as a single mom and doing my things. And I taught at studios in Toronto and I performed in Toronto and then came back to Teachers College and don't look back on that as a regret at all, even though it was kind of my fallback plan. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think it's because of coming to North Bay, I could keep musical theater and dance in my educational journey, right? So you would have seen that, some of that in what I'd shared with you. But I could always keep dancing even when I was teaching elementary school. I was working it into my classwork. When I was even teaching, as I was teaching dance at the high school, I still really wanted to make sure that the students not only learned how to do the skills in the studio, but they went out into the community, taught at the elementary schools themselves so that they too could see that there's nothing like performing arts. There's nothing like arts. You can't just learn it on a piece of paper.
Yep.
You know, it has to be sent from generation to generation and tier to tier. And it's the only way, I think, to really embrace the beauty of the art form.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
I love it. And so you have you taught for 28 years. Is that like current? Like 28 years so far?
28 years in the classroom. And then now I've been working at the board office since then, using the arts in different capacity, but working in a formal administrative. So I'm coming up on 30 years in my career, which is crazy because it means I could retire if from this specific career. I mean, I'd never stop doing.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think from this piece of my career, it could come to a different change, another venture in the road.
And so did you do elementary, like did you do all grades or was most of the bulk of it like high school?
Yeah, most of the bulk of it was high school. So I started in elementary for about 6 months.
Okay.
And then Gina Armstrong Arrow, who was definitely another one of my mentors, invited me to come into her classroom because she had to leave at the high school at Widdifield.
Oh, yes.
And that's how I got to Widdifield. And so I went in and it was interesting because there was a couple of teachers that she was thinking of having as to her replacement while she was going to be off. And little did I know, the students were auditioning me.
Oh.
And you'll hear quite a story from Scott Fitzgerald, another name you might know, who was in that very class. And it was really the students kind of gave Gina the idea of which teacher they wanted.
No
and I was
way.
lucky enough to be the one they picked.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I was able to teach there for the bulk of my career at Widdifield.
Yeah.
It's secondary.
Yeah. Do you miss Widdifield? I miss Widdifield.
You know, it's funny because I love education.
Yeah.
And I would never want any student who's made a choice of any building or any school board that they've chosen to think that one is necessarily better than the other. But there is something different in each space you go to.
Sure.
And I think there's sometimes some crossover in how people understand that when you say, there was nothing like Widdifield.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it was just better. There's just something to say about that space that it had to offer.
Yeah.
Particularly within the arts, for sure. You'll hear it across the board, though, from any teachers in science and students who've gone through, the math programs and the this and the that. And it may feel like brick and mortar to many people and be like, oh, well, it's just a building.
Yeah.
But there's something about when you walk in there's the essence of safety and the creativity that's required in the arts. You just felt really safe to evolve for the time you were there. And so although I spent 25 years right in that building directly, I still feel like I was fresh and new every time I walked in. Because you could always find ways to kind of be like a chameleon and change and move with whatever was happening in the structure of the group of people that were in there.
Right.
So missing it, definitely. Like heartfelt truth in that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went there as a high school kid myself, which is part of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that there's just was such a bond and a community that was built in there that it's hard to just even drive by and be like, wow, that doesn't exist in the way that it did.
Yeah.
Which is why I hope that we can find a future for that space because I think that gift is still in the building.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true. It's, because I was lucky enough to do some shows at Widdifield on that stage, and there's something, it's so true what you say. There's just something really welcoming about that stage. It's a beautiful space. I think it's designed really, really well, and there's not a bad seat in the house. And there's just something about that. There's just a different intimacy with the audience, having the audience kind of go up like a real Greek theater, and you're kind of down here. And so there's just this, I don't know, there is a welcoming sense to it, when you go in. And it might just be one of those things too where you've done so many shows over the year, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah.
But it's like, sometimes you do a show one year and it's just the mix of people and it's just the show and the thing. And it's just this beautiful little bubble.
It is.
It's just everything comes together. So maybe there was something in that for Widdifield, right? It's just it was the mix of people with there was just something.
Yeah, and even in the way it was constructed, Marty and Art Southcott were very, very important in how that was constructed, and so was Rick Blair.
For the theater?
For the theater space.
Yeah.
And they were invested in the community of theater all through North Bay. And I think they brought that to the planning phase of the facility itself.
Yeah.
So in that space, you had the dance studio right next door to the theater for easy access. The change rooms right in the back of the theater so that you could access that with lots of space to hold costumes. And the music room was even, right behind it. So you could pump in music if you needed to for productions. The space was small. It's 220 seats. But we don't have anything else like that in North Bay at all.
We do not.
That provides that kind of safety net for audience as well, right? When you're introducing an audience to theater, it makes it more personal and it can really invite them in. And sometimes a bigger space doesn't quite do that in the same way.
Yeah.
So from the time I would get there at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning until the time I'd leave many nights at 10 o'clock at night, it was like a passage of time didn't even matter because you just didn't want to leave the space.
It's like a casino.
Right? Yeah, it's like a
pumping in oxygen.
Exactly.
There's no lights, no windows, no clocks. You just,
yeah. Access to the water fountain, you're good.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, let's take a little break from Jocelyn so that we can thank one of our major sponsors, Source for Sports. So, what do you get when you go to Source for Sports? Well, you not only get a massive range of different sports equipment, they also have uniforms. You do uniforms and they have expertise as well, right? So when you go into that store, you're not just going to get a tennis racket. You're not just going to get a hockey stick. I was going to say puck. You probably get a puck there too. But you also get the expertise of the people working there. Paul and his team have all the expertise to get you set up for whatever sport you're into in the community. And they're huge community supporters, right? So they love that sports kind of bring people together, not only kids, but maybe you're an adult who's starting a new sport or who wants to kind of take up maybe skiing or skating and you don't really know where to start. Source for Sports. That's where you should start. Head over to Fisher Street. Where are they? What is there? They're at 1321 Fisher Street. And Paul and his team can get you set up with anything you need sports-wise. Source for Sports. Thanks, guys.
It's time to Toyota at North Bay Toyota. Attention truck lovers. Have you been Tundra struck? The powerful and dependable Toyota Tundra is the new definition of grit. Ask us about amazing lease deals on a 2025 Tundra Double Cap SR 4-wheel drive and experience ingenious levels of capability, technology, and refinement. Or maybe you're an SUV lover? Take advantage of a limited shipment of 2025 RAV4s and discover the perfect blend of style, comfort, and efficiency in a compact SUV that ignites your desire to explore. Right now, get excellent lease deals on the Toyota RAV4 LE all-wheel drive and more. It's time to Toyota at North Bay Toyota, 640 McEwen, or online at northbaytoyota.com for details.
Speaking of bigger spaces, now I was going to ask you about something you have done for years, and that is be part of Dreamcoat and Toros. So yeah, maybe like how long have you been and when did you start doing Dreamcoat or how did you start doing Dreamcoat and has that evolved over the years?
So my first involvement with Dreamcoat was when Dennis Gardner invited me to watch a show.
Okay.
So I went in 1998 and I watched The Hobbit and he wanted me to give him some feedback.
Okay.
So I dramaturged a little bit with him and we worked through The Hobbit a little bit. And then couple years that passed, and year and a half passed. In 1999, I'm working with Marty Southcott as a choreographer on Oliver. And then any year I've tried not to be involved,
they suck you back in. Yes,
I at least end up ushering, like this week for Honk Jr. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I can't stay away from it.
Yeah.
So I would say that it's been ongoing. As many as 4 and 5 shows a year.
Yeah.
Sometimes with Dreamcoat, depending on how the year rolls out, because sometimes there's summer programs and Christmas programs and then 2 big shows and then a smaller show. And, but again, it never feels like it's too much or it never feels like there's not enough time in the day because you do eat, sleep, and breathe it. So it doesn't really matter if your calendar is starting at 7 a.m. and finishing at midnight because you just you feed off of it. It literally feeds your soul. Yeah. So I know that might sound really hokey, but it
doesn't though. For people who, I know, I totally get it. And I think people who do theater or have that kind of gene in their body that really allows them to do it or just craves that kind of creativity. I'm just thinking too, like we've been in rehearsal for our show coming up and, sometimes we'll have like a rehearsal from like 10 to 4 on like a Saturday or something. And it never feels wrong in any way. Like I've never gone like, I got rehearsal this weekend. It's always like, okay, cool. Gotta be up. We gotta go. Like, do.
Yeah.
Like it's your happy place. It's your happy place.
It's
just your brain works in a different way and it's like a massage to your brain. It is. It's just like, and so, I totally get that feeling of just immersing yourself in it completely. Yeah.
And I think that it's also Dreamcoat Fantasy Theater could also be Dreamcoat Family Theater. But not just because of the content of the work, but because the group of people that you work with also bring you so tightly together. Yeah. We've been fortunate enough to have a lot of similar people kind of coming back. But the benefit of that is that then they become mentors to the new coming in. And it only takes you sometimes a couple of weeks or one show at the max for you to feel like you're part of the Dreamcoat family. Yeah. And I use that term not really, like I'm usually pretty safe with that term. Like just like I am with something that I love, I'm safe with those terms. Like I don't want to throw them around willy-nilly. Because I believe family has a big context word to it. But at the same time, if you take a look at what it takes to make up a family, the support, the love, the trust, all of those things are existent within the program.
Yeah.
And I do honestly believe there is nothing else anywhere that I've ever crossed paths with that really, truly is the same as Dreamcoat.
Really?
In the bigger cities, in the what? Like my nieces used to come up for the summer just because that from the big city for the program in the summer.
Okay.
Because there was nothing for them like that in Mississauga. Like there was nothing comparable.
That's insane. That's really surprising.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't mean this to be a dig at anybody, but it's like sometimes you get programs and directors that are in it for themselves. And not to say that doesn't happen with multiple programs. We do have people that are like that. But I think the consistency of Dreamcoat has been that it's really been about doing it for others.
Yeah.
Whether it's the director, whether it's the audience members coming in, they'll come in and support it because they're supporting it for whoever's on the stage, not just because it's people they know. And the same from the directors, the choreographers, the painters, that they're there for everybody else and not just for themselves. And I figure sometimes when you get in those bigger cities, it becomes so competitive that it becomes more about the people that are running the program rather than the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And if the accolades aren't coming their way, then it's not worth doing. So maybe that's why there's maybe not as much, sustainability.
Yeah. Because I mean, I was lucky enough to do a big family show with you in 2015 when we did Mary Poppins. Oh God, I would play her again in a second. And it's, here we are in North Bay.
Careful what you say.
Why?
Well, I'm just thinking like a 10-year. It might be time to do Poppins.
It is 10 years. Oh my God, yeah. I loved her. And I love the whole experience. And I was gonna say, like, Dreamcoat is such an amazing experience, no matter what age you are, and yes, for the families. Like, think about all of the families in this community who have been part of it, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the acting part of it, or whether it's painting the stage, or doing costumes, or helping with something. But I think it's really important for kids to come in and see this, because they really realize that it takes a whole village to create this thing. And it's almost like the military coming together to do some kind of operation.
Yeah.
You're all working towards the same goal, but, without the lighting designer, you can act as well as you want, but if you're in the dark, no one will see you. So, like, everybody is really important. And that's what I love about theater. It's like there's no hierarchy. There's no, everybody has to work just as hard, and their parts are just so important. I remember like doing some quick changes, with Mary Poppins, and my girls, like they saved me. I'd get back there and I'd just kind of go, okay, go. They'd like rip this off and throw this here, and without them, I wouldn't be back on stage.
Absolutely.
And the degree of Dreamcoat sometimes. I mean, the set that we had for Mary Poppins, there was smoke coming out of the freaking chimney. People talk about that to this day. They're like, I remember walking in and just being like, is this a Marvis production? Like, what is going on? Like, it was out of this world. And our costumes being made by what was her name? Cheryl.
Yes. Yeah.
Cheryl. And it was like the patterns from Broadway. Like, it was such an experience. Like, everything was just real. It was such an interesting, it was just, oh man, it was something I'll never forget.
Yeah.
And just so many people, so many different ages. And to this day, I'll see people in the street and they'll be like, hi, Mary Poppins. Will be like, hey, what's up, girl? Like, because you say once you become part of the Dreamcoat family, you don't leave.
No.
It's like being a member of the mob. Yeah. Like, you never leave. You're just there, and
isn't
really
that brilliant that you don't have to go to New York to establish those feelings?
That's exactly
right.
it.
Like, it doesn't have to be. It's right here.
It's right here in North Bay.
I think back to when I did High School Musical at Widdifield.
Yeah.
And Kristen Griffith, who was
fantastic.
our lead, and everybody loved her, and she was fantastic. But this little girl who's 8 years old, who'd come up to see the show with her mom from down in Barrie, literally thought that she was Gabriella from the movie. Like, could not wait to get her autograph at the end of the show.
Way.
And it mattered to her to meet 16-year-old Kristen.
Yeah.
And it made an impact in her life. And I think that's one of the things sometimes we forget when we see like a cast of 80, or when you do Lunenburg and it's a cast of 3.
Yeah.
There might be just one person in the audience who you changed their life.
Yeah.
in whatever way that is, right? That they decide to go out and see more theater, or that they go and they read a history book, or they decide to have a conversation that they wouldn't have had before.
Yeah.
And same with the amount of kids that are on stage. You know, it could be that one kid up in the back. And that was one of those things that we often used to think about when we were casting shows with Marty, and we'd have like 150 kids come up for a Dreamcoat show. I'm like, we can't have more than 100, you know? And she would pick out certain kids, and you'd be like, at first, when you were first starting to work with her, you're like, Marty, is that really the right choice?
Yeah.
And she'd be like, the kid needs it.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Wow.
you're right. That kid needs it. It doesn't matter for any other reason.
That's right.
The kid needs it.
Yeah.
And so they'd be cast, and Marty was right. Right? And then sometimes it would be, you'd have to sit there and think, and unfortunately we lost Marty years ago, but you'd go, what would Marty do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're in a tough situation, what would her situation be?
Yeah.
You know, or when Haley passed and we realized what a gaping hole we lost when she passed within the Dreamcoat program, and we were like, wow, she was a lot.
Yeah.
Like she was a wonder, you know, and thankfully she mentored many people along the way to help try to fill that void. And I think that the communication that goes on when it comes to a production, when it comes to theater, when it comes to dance, so much of it is nonverbal, that it's not necessarily passed down in the paperwork that those people passed on to us on how to do the job. Because those pieces you can do. Yeah. It's on paper. It's a check mark. It's a to-do list. But it's the how. It's the finesse, right? That goes with the craft, and it also goes with the production team behind it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a difference into the success. And when I think COVID kind of put a bump in our road.
Sure. Yeah.
And finding that finesse again for many, many programs, I think is one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
Like, we can all know what everyone's role is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But the how-to, we missed sharing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We missed teaching that younger generation, or that, you know, those people that were transitioning through university that were coming up to be our next directors and our choreographers. We missed sharing that finesse. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time to still recover from that. And I think that many programs have folded because of that. But our community of North Bay supporting us with the love of these programs like that, you know, Gateway offer, that, you know, Dreamcoat offer, that our high schools have been able to offer. That community support for theater outreach on stage last summer. My goodness, I was so thankful to see so much of our community come back and help support the rejuvenation of that over the last couple of years.
So was that the first summer then since
So last year
COVID?
wasn't the first summer, but I think people the summer before were still a little bit tentative.
Okay.
As to what does it still look like.
Yeah.
So you're kind of in that experimental stage, and they were brilliant in bringing it back that in the summer of 2023. And then 2024 brought back the old team.
Okay.
So many of the old players were back.
Yeah.
And they were able to then bring that finesse that was missing back to it. And I think that is what helped us.
Yeah.
And then, so, you know, transitioning our conversation into toros, which is a huge part of my background as well, hitting the high school age kids with the something to do in a summer.
Right.
It can be so hard to keep that group engaged, especially when there isn't always necessarily jobs to be had.
Right.
So they have to find other ways to keep themselves occupied. But also through a transition time that's really tough. Teen years are tough.
Yeah.
And summer, no school.
Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah.
Teenagers have a tough time adjusting back in September.
Yeah.
But if they get involved in programs like Toros over this summer, it really allows them to expand their social skills as well, so that they can stay engaged and stay present. Right? And then not feel that gap for them.
And
in
they
those
get a
summer
credit
months.
to do that.
And they get a school credit as well.
And is
which
it like,
great.
how many weeks is it?
So we start in May, and we work, just for in May and June, we just do a couple of nights a week until we get into the summer, because as you know, production to get up and on its legs in 5 to 6 weeks is a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, especially because the scale of theater outreach on stage, it's a big production. So we really benefit from our sponsorships, and we had some great sponsors last year with Redpath and Cementation and the YMCA being really big sponsors for us.
Yeah.
They helped support our message, but and financial, of course, which is one of the things, unfortunately, we have to ask for in the theater. But they also just really helped us broaden our community base a little bit. Some people came to the theater that hadn't come to the theater before.
Would never have gone before.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you kind of open that up when you open it up to businesses.
Yeah.
And I see that kind of more of the sponsorship reasoning, why we go chasing those sponsorships. It's not just for the money. It's that we want to open up our community base as well for experiencing what theater has to offer.
And they obviously see, how amazing it is for the community and that it needs to keep going and that it's important. And
100%.
Kids really, really benefit from this program. And I mean, I've seen them. Both my nieces they started, I think they've been doing it probably about 5 years now. And they would go out and audition and stuff. And Lucy, my older niece Lucy, at first, I was helping her with the choreography, and I don't know, maybe if she listens to this, she'll be like, what? But I think it wasn't maybe her strongest suit was the dancing and the choreography. And now the last show she did in Drowsy Chaperone, she was a dance lead, like a dance. Yeah. She was like, that's what she did. And
she was awesome.
And I think this is kind of how Lucy is a little bit. Like she just kind of throws herself into things. And I wish I was that brave when I was her age, because she just kind of goes for it,
Yeah.
But also, I think that is, like you say, it came out of working with people who create this really safe atmosphere. And nothing is a stupid question. Nothing is a dumb kind of try, or just try and do the choreography or try this, try that. Nobody looks silly. We're all going to get it. We're all going to get to it. And she just kept going back out and back out. And she has formed the best relationships and the best friendships, and she just loves it. And so does Violet. I should say Violet too. She didn't do Drowsy Chaperone, but there was a time there where they were both in like all these shows and then doing the summer camps, and they just absolutely love it. They eat it up.
Yep. And it's important for people to see themselves when they're in an audience, and they see, hey, if that 10-year-old can do it, if that 16-year-old can do it, why can't I do it? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
If that 50-year-old's still doing it,
I
should keep
and
doing it.
We have those.
I better keep doing it. Why?
Yeah.
And there's so few things that you can do as a family.
Yes.
And even when it comes to like the summer school programs, so like Toros and that sort of thing, sure, you can definitely say that it's a high school program, but families get involved because they volunteer. Families get involved because they asked, they join our staff. They're interviewed and hired for staff as well.
Yeah.
So it doesn't just stop with community theater programming. It also can work in your schools. I used to say to my students all the time, my dance students, I'd give them an independent study to do. And I'd say, please go home and ask your parents for help. Don't do this on your own.
Yeah.
Because you enter grade 9 and you've stopped needing them to help you with the little bug project in grade 2 when building a volcano in grade 5. And,
the space one. Yeah.
But they miss it.
Yeah.
So ask them to help you create the video, or ask them. And if they have to learn new technology, teach them.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like have the opportunity to still let them be involved. I would rather you came to me with a project that said, well, 90% of it I used my mom for help.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because you then engaged each other in the work. And I would rather that than anything else. Mm-hmm. So show me a video of you teaching your parent to tap dance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the video I want.
Yeah.
I don't care that you can do the steps anymore. That's one thing. But where are you sharing it?
Right.
Where are you taking it to the next level?
Yeah.
And I would always also say to my graduates at grade 12, I am so glad you're fantastic dancers. That's wonderful. But go out and be a fantastic human. Mm. And if you're in the arts, you should be learning those characteristics, those caring, compassionate, trusting characteristics. I don't care if you ever step foot in a dance studio again, but just remember the qualities and the feeling you get from dancing. Mm-hmm. That's what matters going out this door at graduation.
Dang. Gotta drop the mic right there. And that's why we love you in this community, Jocelyn, because you're such a cheerleader, from what I've known of you and what other people say about you. And, you're so highly regarded. And I hope you know that, people just love and respect you so much. And you have been such a part of this community. And I think that's exactly why, it's not just about teaching people skills and stuff, but that you want to pay it forward.
Absolutely.
You want to pay it forward. And not just in theater, But like you say, in the community, be a good human. Go out and you may not stick in the arts. You may go into mining. You may go into teaching. You may go into whatever.
Yep.
But whatever that is, remember what theater has taught you, right? Like remember those feelings and how you worked with one another and maybe how you helped somebody else shine. You helped somebody else look really good. And therefore you get that feeling, right? To pay it forward. So thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. And I cannot wait to do something else with you in the future.
Well, you never know.
You never know.
Just a spoonful of sugar. Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? Or something different.
And something different, yeah. One of the things I'm going to take away from this chat with Jocelyn was when she was talking about Marty Southcott. And when Jocelyn was first getting involved, with Dreamcoat, and they'd be doing auditions for the shows, and Marty would kind of pick out, a few kids for these different roles, and Jocelyn would kind of say, really? Do you think that's maybe the best person for that part? And how Marty would say, the kid needs it. That's what Dreamcoat really embodies, right? Or any kind of theater here in the community. But I loved the way that Jocelyn explained that and just kind of said that that's her mandate as well. And she really is a community hero because she pays it forward, right? And she was talking so much about just passing it down from generation to generation. And that's really what community is, right? Is teaching kind of the next generation, the next people coming up or new people coming in to do some kind of theater. And maybe it's their first time, working on costumes or being backstage or maybe being on stage. And so helping them with that finesse, that she was talking about, kind of the tricks of the trade, right? You always want to learn from somebody who's kind of already been in the trenches, who's already done something on stage. But I just thought, what a cool way to put that. That was just something that really hit me when she said, it's because that child needs it. That kid needs it. And that's why we're here. Dreamcoat is not about any one person. It's not about getting the accolades. It's about, having that family come in and having that community experience on stage. And Jocelyn absolutely embodies that in her teaching as well. I've been directed by her and she's marvelous at it. She really makes you feel at ease and safe, but also just really wants you to kind of go out now into your community and be the best human you can be. I love that. That was great. That was fun. Hey, listen, wherever you listen to your podcast, whether it's Spotify or Apple, maybe it's YouTube, why don't you leave us a like or, mention something. Maybe you can mention if you have somebody that you want to put forward to come on the show. Maybe you have a community hero that you'd like us to highlight. We'd love to hear from you. You can also head to our website, northbayecho.ca. Check out the other podcasts that are there. Maybe there's something that'll interest you. We have some really fun shows. And you can also sign up for our newsletter, Echo Essentials. Comes out every Wednesday morning, and that'll be just sent to you right to your inbox. You don't have to do anything about it. Once you sign up, it's yours every Wednesday. Well, I better go start my car. I'm sure she's going to start. Let's say a little prayer. Let's say a little prayer for you. All right. Until next time. Much love, North Bay.